Welcome back everybody to Mooby Doo Gold and Treasure Prospecting. If you saw a short I put out yesterday, I received some unprocessed gold ore from the Old Mouldy. So I fired it and this is what's left. Chunky little bits of quartz. I don't know how well you can see that. It almost looks like brick. It's like almost like volcanic rock. It's full of holes, very discoloured, loads and loads of chunks of quartz in there. That's what's left. I've crushed some down to what, I'm going to show you this, almost like a pea gravel. Still lots of little chunks of quartz in there, but I've got it down to that. I've sifted through that to get down to this consistency, which, you know, it took me about a good hour, maybe a bit longer, of hammering with the dolly to crush that down to a powder. So I think that's about as much as I need to deal with in one time. So I'm going to remove this out of the way. That needs final crushing. This needs dollying straight away, really. Get it crushed down. I'm going to move this out of the way so it gives me a little bit of panning space. Now, I've panned gold ores before, and the gold is notorious for sitting around. So let's see if I can get it to sink down. Water's going to be extremely mucky. Extremely. Now, I've seen Jason from Mount Baker Mining and that processing his gold ores, and it takes him a long time. I'm going to give this material a good mix around with my fingers. I've only just changed this tank. Unfortunately, it's going to get completely annihilated with this, but never mind. Just the top out. I'm just going to rinse that top out, and then I'm going to draw back again. Really going to take my time with this. My favourite pan, the black gold pan. That's wash out some of them top layers and start again. That's still drying out from my little gold ripper session earlier on. So we've just emptied this tank out, and we've done quite a run of pay dirts lately. And every time we empty the trough out, we just run it over the micro sluice just to see. I'm quite astonished with the results. Could be as much as 1/4 gram there, which I know my son Ben lost a little bit when he was doing his panning and cleaning up, and I'm sure I dropped it. There's a little bit of wire gold missing. I saw it shoot down the sluice. I think it must have ended up back in the tank again. But after this, we're going to have to empty this tank out again. And you can still see I've got that down, but that's by no means a dust, which is I think what I'm going to have to get down to. I've given up waiting for an ore crusher to be made, and importing is it's just not feasible at the moment. I'll come up with another idea. Let me know what you think about this. I'm considering getting something called an SDS drill, so a bit like a jackhammer but handheld, and I'm considering using that to try and process this ore down. Don't know how I'm going to get on. Yeah, so this is just not as finely crushed as I'd like. It's just not as finely crushed as I'd like. Let's grab this other pan back. So I'm I'm just going to pan into this just in case I have any major mistakes. Let's start working some of this light material out. Not as crushed as I'd like. This needs to be pulverised, powdered. If you're going to find gold in this, I think it needs to be powdered. I can get it down to a certain level. I do have some very fine crush in there, but I still think I could get that down to a finer grain. There's gold in there that I'm probably missing because it's still wrapped around stone, quartz, etc. Now, I should have spent a lot longer panning this material down. If there is any gold now that's been freed up, it should be sat nice and pretty down there. I'll reduce it down just a little bit more. It's in them very fine crushed materials, that's where the gold will be sitting, I'm sure. Well, pans dancing all over the place. So what are you up to this weekend? Are you out panning, looking for the shiny? I hope so. I hope you're all out there having a good look around. And this is my version of prospecting. This is about as close to real prospecting as I can get. This is unprocessed gold ore from the Old Mouldy. So they've looked at this seam, found gold in it, thought it worthy, and then I've just bought a kilo of it, and then I can bring that experience back home. And I've gone through burning, crushing, which is quite labour intensive without a machine. So if I do find some gold, it's been well earned, and it almost makes it more pleasurable because I've really had to work for this. Telltale nice little chunky bit of red quartz there. You often find the quartz sitting around the darkened quartz, and there's that piece there that stayed quite deep. I have found a couple of tiny little specks of gold that you have to look kind of on the microscope to see it. I'll see if I can show you in a minute. So I don't know. This material is very strange to work with, and you can easily wash away your very, very fine micro gold. Difficult, it's very tiny. Nearly there. There's a little piece there. I can see a little piece. Very, very small. So yeah, so I'm thinking maybe this gold is so fine. There's a couple of very small pieces. Considering how much material I've crushed, that's quite some process to get that ready, several hours. I do see a couple of bigger pieces, but when I say bigger, I'm talking about micro dot bigger, but that's definitely gold. I don't think this material, I'm not sure. I can see some very, very fine pieces. It's difficult to separate it from these gravels. I certainly don't see masses of colour. Maybe that's down to the fact that it still needs more crushing. Well, interesting. I'm gonna look at that shining at me again. I'll bring you over to the microscope and see if I can just show you the gold that I have seen. And bear in mind, this is very, very small. You can just make out a couple of the dots on the microscope. So I'll bring you over here and I'll show you. So you can see the ore discoloured after the burn. It was very discoloured anyway. I mean, look at it. It does look gorgeous ore. And if you look very closely on this piece there, I'll show you here, if you can just make out, without the glare, my apologies, you can just see a few little dots of gold. They sit around the edge there. Just tiny little dots. It's almost easier to see with the eye. There you can see it there. Now, if you look with the naked eye, you can't see that. But I'm kind of learning and recognising where to look for the gold in these ore samples. And there it is. That is definitely gold sat there, but it is, you know, super fine flour gold. But there's definitely gold in this ore. I've just got to find the best way of processing it and finding it. Because, yeah, I think two tiny little specks I saw. Still, I panned out a lot of gravels. So I don't think I've released all the gold out of that. In fact, I'm sure I haven't. Well, thanks for joining me. I will find a way forward. Maybe I shall try running it over the micro sluice. If the gold's sitting there and it's getting traxed amongst that heavier material, maybe that'll be a way of releasing it. I will have a little play and find out. Thanks for joining me again. This is Moobidoo Golden Treasure Prospecting, signing off.